5th, 2025. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mike was in a rush today.
Yeah, sometimes I speak a little fast. All right, before we get into it tonight, I'd like to give our newest member, Mr. Philip Adams, a chance to introduce himself and just give us a little background on you.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Phil Adams. I'm a lifelong resident of Acushnet. Currently reside in Reservoir Estates with my wife and 2 kids. Former town employee. 10 years ago, I left the police department here to join the Eastern Police Department, and I'm currently the deputy chief there. So I know what all the towns are going through right now financially.
This is good to have you on.
Yeah, we're experiencing our own issues and budgets that we're trying to deal with. This is my second or third budget that I've done, so it's going to be a challenging year. So I'm glad to be here and hopefully help out.
Welcome.
Awesome.
You got the right hairstyle.
Oh, yeah. I'm still the only one with hair. What the hell?
This is by choice.
This is what happens when you're on the finance committee for 20 years.
You lose your hair.
All right, so on tonight's agenda, we're going to get an update on the FY26 budget, and we'll discuss our upcoming hearings. So, Mr. Kelly, the floor is yours.
At the last meeting, I gave you the revenue sheet. I've updated it and given it to you with the governor's figures. As you know, usually the governors are the lowest figures, and just so Sue's all set, in the bottom left corner.
Oh, it's dated.
It's dated.
Thank you.
I didn't even notice.
I had just dated on the right hand.
Same thing.
You need to date your superseded copies, you know?
Yeah. Governor's figures usually are the lowest, and the legislature, House will usually up UGGA and or the Chapter 70, and then the Senate will come in and do the other, and then the conference committee settles in the middle. We all know that. The selectmen have set June 2nd for town meetings, so the timeline I gave you in the past, I'll be sending out a new one. It's pretty much the same in the interior until we get to the publication of the warrant. I've been told that it's very likely that we'll see a debt exclusion brought forward by the school, the Acushnet schools on their air HVAC system wants, we don't have a figure yet from the schools. They're working on it depending on how many grants they get. Once the debt exclusion is decided in the election, then there will be a funding appropriation at town meeting. If it passes, I'm sure it will be moved forward. If it doesn't pass on the election, then it's up to the town whether they want to take it out of the operating budget, which will mean that we won't have an operating budget.
Fund the repairs for the air or AC, whatever it is, through the operating budget of the town?
Well, that will be the choice of the town if it does not pass the debt exclusion.
So you're
That's
saying,
just, I mean, that's
not possible.
that's not a realistic option, right? Like, I think it needs to be.
I hope you're right.
it has to be presented that way.
It's not.
In other words, the town can't say, well, the school can't say, well, you didn't vote for it in a debt exclusion, but we're still putting the article forward.
It'll get shot down.
How can you put it forward when there's not going to be any money there to pay for it?
The article at town meeting is an appropriating article, not a debt exclusion article. Your debt exclusion comes at the election.
So if they get it through town meeting as an appropriation and we don't find a way to fund for it, we still are on the hook for it.
Yeah.
Well, that's gotta come out in town meeting and be 100%.
Well, I think it's gotta come out a lot
Oh,
sooner
yeah.
than town meeting.
But it needs to be highlighted during town meeting, that this, if you vote yes on this, the town is on the hook for it, whether we find a way to finance it or not.
Yep.
So,
And it's my knowledge that Old Colony will be coming in the fall for a debt exclusion for the new school.
Any idea what that is?
Price-wise, no, but
Our percentage is based on the percentage of students?
our percentage is based on pupils.
Yeah.
So you're responsible for approximately one-third
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
that.
Whatever's not
So
covered
that's
via
gonna be
grant.
a very huge number.
I
Yes.
wasn't aware that their study was even completed.
I was told that the town administrators and the town clerks are going to be and going to be asked to hold, figure out when the special town election will be in the fall. And my understanding is it's going to be all towns at once, and it'll be a majority vote of the pool voting. Not
As we heard, it
town,
was in a study. It wasn't
not
even
town by
presented.
town.
Yeah.
I remember when Mr. Polanski came in, the original discussion was either a renovation of the existing school,
Addition, right?
in addition, and renovation, or a new school. So what happened with that? I
Well,
mean,
he also talked about this being like a 2-year study.
There was gonna be
Yeah.
public hearings about it.
mhm.
It kind of seems a little rushed.
Because I thought there'd be a
Well,
vote either way.
I think part of it too is that if Old Colony doesn't pay for the special election, we have to figure out how to pay for it. So it has to be in our budget, operating budget that we're passing at town meeting. That's why we're probably getting a heads up on the fact there's going to be an election for whatever amount and whatever they decide in the fall. So you're having a debt exclusion in the spring for the Acushnet schools and a debt exclusion in the fall for Old Colony.
So i.e. property taxes are going up.
Usually.
If Acushnet pulls out like Freetown, how's that gonna be?
I don't know what the removal notice, et cetera, is in your agreement. I'd have to look that up.
But Freetown is not a member town.
Right,
At
that's
Old
what I'm
Colony.
saying.
That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
He was talking about if Acushnet goes the way of Freetown,
But-
and
Pulls
removes
out.
itself from Old Colony.
But we are a member town where Freetown wasn't a member town.
They
Yeah,
were.
yeah.
No,
so
Freetown was, I'm sorry, what?
Freetown was paying tuition.
Freetown was not a member town of Old Colony.
I thought Freetown was and they pulled out.
No,
No,
they were not a member.
They
town.
were using it
Yeah.
with tuition, like you're using Fairhaven High School.
So is that implying that we cannot pull out?
I don't know, it's just, it's different. Freetown,
Yeah.
we are not like
You
Freetown.
would have to give notice, et cetera.
We
and
paid for
then
that school. We
There's
paid
a
to
whole
build the
process
school.
for that.
I'm
Yeah,
not
so it's
recommending it,
different.
I don't know
Yeah.
anything about
All I'm,
it.
yeah, no, Eric,
Yeah.
it's just, I wanted to make sure, like, we understood.
No,
that
that's
there is a
good,
difference.
I was under the
Freetown-
impression that Freetown
No.
was a member
No.
and they pulled out.
No. No. So like all the, like, back in the day when I used to be the rep, like there was a new roof and there was a science lab, so there was a debt exclusion for that. Actually, it wasn't even a debt exclusion, it got wrapped into the budget, but like, we paid for all of that.
Right.
Where Freetown was just paying normal tuition like we do for Haven.
That sounds like a good option for us.
To just pay as you go as
They were
opposed.
paying more
Yeah,
per pupil.
And they didn't have priority like Acushnet does.
that's why we stopped taking Freetown, we had, right, it was too much of a wait list, at least from what I remember from the meeting.
Yeah.
So I just, like, it isn't as easy as just walking away, I wouldn't
No.
expect.
Right.
Plus, where do all our kids go?
They would have to find another Moke, New Bedford.
I can't go there.
I don't know, I've
Yeah.
just,
Yeah,
yeah.
Did they get funding from MSBA? Or-
They will, but we don't know how much. We don't even know the price tag yet. But my view, well, my worry is you've got a debt exclusion in the spring,
and another one.
and then you've got a debt exclusion in the fall, and so then,
Perfect storm.
yeah, and then your next tax cycle, you're going to see both debt exclusions on top of your tax bill.
Yeah, but
It's gonna be
Phil,
a
to-
$200 million project, right?
I mean, to your question,
Oh,
I
that
think,
one.
I mean, Acushnet, we're not gonna get the same type of MSBA grant, whatever, like Fall
Yeah.
River for Durfee.
No,
You know, like, not even close.
no, you're not, you'll be
It's not
lucky.
99%
You'll be
covered.
lucky, you'll be lucky
If
to
we
get
get 60.
60.
And that, okay, because I had heard the 60 number before, all right? So if we think about, you know, us needing to cover, us meaning the member towns covering 40% of possibly hundreds of millions of dollars, right? Like, let's, okay, say it is 200, right? We're gonna cover 40%, 80 million bucks divided by the member towns, a third of 80. Like, I mean, stupid
You're an
math.
accountant.
Huh?
It's like 26.4.
Yeah. Like,
That's not gonna happen. There's no way that.
how's our
There'll be a
how's
tax
our
reform.
rating? Like, I hope we're still at, right?
AA plus.
Okay.
26.6.
Because that's always the fight we have. Like, we want to maintain for the years that we end up having to borrow.
Yeah, but it's a debt exclusion that is more like an charge, that's more like an assessment. They will tell you what you owe.
You
And
mean-
it's based
Yes.
on the 90-10 formula of student population.
You mean the Old Colony piece? Yeah, we're just doing rough, you know.
We're
we say
figuring we're a third right now.
We're
if it's
about
80
somewhere
million.
between 30% and 33%.
If
right?
it's 80 million, you're at like
Yeah, but
26.65.
you, with the MSBA, and you can back me up, it's not a simple 60. It's,
Yeah.
you get a percentage here, and then they might give you 2 or 3 points there, and
Yeah.
for other, you check other boxes, you get
Yeah.
2 or 3 points here.
All
and
I was
there.
trying to get an understanding of is,
Rough
it is not going to be like what Fall River got for Durfee, which what I had heard was like 99% covered by the grant. We are not, there is no realm of possibility that we would even get close to that.
Look at the difference between what Fall River gets in Chapter 70
That's my
and what you
point.
get.
That's my, I want it to be, I want it to understand and make sure that
You're
we're
right.
all on the same page.
You're right, it's coming out of your pocket,
Yeah.
not out of MSBA. So that is the climate you're looking at as we go into this budget year. For the Acushnet taxpayers, they've got the potential of 2 debt exclusions. And right now, I've got a revenue increase of just under $500,000.
Yeah.
And I've got, before we look at any budget just with the asks, I've got on the town side about $700,000 increase. And
And that's
that
with
does
every
not
ask.
include the schools. Pretty much, union wages and the joint account increases, pension, benefits, insurance, wipe out the 500,000 of increased revenue.
Is there any more consideration, than last time we met was discussed about closing out the unfilled positions?
I've discussed with the board a hiring freeze for now, and then to look at what would have to be filled and what wouldn't, or shouldn't be filled.
Yeah.
The board has not gone over any of the budgets yet. We've had discussion on, just general discussion, and it's a general discussion when I have with this board tonight. The budgets I've given you are the no change budgets from the amount requested last year. And that's what no change in that list means. I'm not saying that there'll be no changes in these budgets. I'm saying that I would recommend there be no increases, but we still might have to cut.
Understood. No
And
change, should just say no increase.
And when you look at them, a lot of them are very small budgets, so they really don't
they
make
don't move the
a
needle.
difference in the larger picture.
They don't move the needle.
Is there any debt coming off the books anytime soon?
Uh, What we're looking to do once I've analyzed free cash is between free cash and the solar tax revenue to get rid of the ban on the school roof.
Sorry, once more with feeling.
We almost have the ban on the school roof last town meeting. If I have enough in free cash and the solar revenue, I'm going to recommend that you get rid of the rest of the ban, and that would retire that debt. Your,
So, I mean, but, and I know we never want to use free cash to balance budgets, because that's a bad idea, and I don't disagree. A bulk of the free cash that we have now, a good chunk of it, I think we talked last time, was because we have so many unfilled positions, right? Like,
you have unfilled positions, and you have positions that were unfilled for part of the year.
right,
They might have been filled,
yeah,
vacant for 6 months, and
And then
then filled again.
I guess before recommending that we do that with this, for the school roof, shouldn't we wait and see where we stand? Because with regards to the budget, and if,
You don't want to use free cash.
I totally understand that. But
Because,
sometimes a Band-Aid is better than a long-term fix.
but the other problem is with DOR, they want you to pay it back on a 3-year schedule.
They want you to pay it back to who? The free cash,
Back, if you use it for an operational budget,
yeah?
They want you to restore it into
Free cash.
stabilization or free cash or whatever on a 3-year schedule.
I think we
Which
just
is
need to let
different.
people, I totally agree.
Which is different than 10 years ago when I did use free cash in another community. And you didn't have to pay it back.
I guess, but that is a factor that everybody should realize, because we're gonna get told, well, we have all this free cash, just use it to balance the budget. Well, okay, every action has a consequence, and this is our consequence we'd have to live with. And it is, again, another one-time fix, just like what we did last year.
You're
There were
with
a lot
the
of,
overlay.
right? Last year, we did that. Like, there were no more real kind of pulling rabbits out of hats, right?
Well, that's why I have only 500,000 in increased revenue. Because last year, if you remember, Old Colony came in and they had 132,823
In the
of
budget.
in their budget as the last year of a debt payment, our share of a debt payment.
Yeah,
And we used overlay.
to pay that.
To
So we
pay
took it
that.
out of our allocation.
So if I still had that 132 in my revenue figures, and you can see I took it out,
Yep,
then we'd have typically what you've had in the
the
past,
600s.
700,
Yeah.
600, 700,000.
What's the stabilization balance?
Off the top of my head, I'd say it's 3 million.
Yeah, we were at the 10%. weren't we?
Yeah, but that's what you have to
Yeah,
keep
to
to
maintain
get
your bond
your
rating.
bond rating.
So-
Where
I
right,
thought it was like 5 to 7.
it's 5 to 7 for them to question, it's 10%
the
for
recommendation.
them to tell you that they're gonna stay.
And with everything we got approaching that we're gonna have to go out on borrow, we'll need a good rating.
Oh, yeah. You're gonna need, you've got roads, you've got pipes, you've got Slocum Street. If the state doesn't give you the, we're still waiting on DOT to tell us about the transportation bond issue that you people were promised 1.5 million since 2014.
How's Hamlin Road? That almost done?
The bridge?
Right.
Yeah,
They're just waiting for it to warm up so they can pave.
yeah, and I'm sure they want to see the melt and then see what they're doing, but spring. I called DOT but couldn't get a date.
They don't answer the phone.
My suggestion is for these simple departments, you don't need to call them in unless we're gonna cut them. And we can then look at the list and try to figure out when you people are going to talk to the other departments.
Well, I don't know what we cut out of the simple ones. When we looked at them year after year after year,
There's nothing to.
there's nothing to cut. There's no fat there.
No, you're looking at 500 here, 250 there.
And that's. you take-
Small cheese.
Yeah, you take $250 out of a $500 budget and find out that they needed them anyway, so. It's just gonna come back and hit us next year. This-
Well, we're gonna need an idea of where the school's
Yeah.
at,
Well,
basically.
yeah.
Because it's pretty much gonna end.
Police.
School, fire,
Fire.
EMS,
Yeah.
school calling.
Yeah.
That's the only
DPW.
options we have.
Mhm.
The rest, what do we touch?
But we realistically need to understand,
Golf's still your enterprise fund.
like, I'm sorry,
It's in revenue.
No, I
you
know.
gotta look at
Do they bring in any
all the hires,
increases?
and there's no way to balance a budget with just cutting. It has to include some layoffs at this point. And we said this last year. We warned everybody last year.
Yeah, but I'm not sure there'd be layoffs, but
We just don't fill positions. Well, we just don't fill
yeah,
it, which
we
is
won't
fine.
fill positions.
Yeah,
Now, I've already I've already talked to the Board of Selectmen, and we are working on filling positions in finance.
That's a necessity, like, that's, it,
And
you cannot
that's
function.
my concentration, because as you folks know, I'm leaving June 30th.
This year?
You picked a fine time to leave us, Lucille.
And
That's why you're still smiling.
Yeah.
2 out of every 3 TA candidates I see out there getting jobs do not have finance experience. They're HR, or their grants, or their economic development, etc. They might know a little bit about finance, but they don't have my background. So filling those finance positions is critical.
But are we saying that, I mean, just because positions are filled, they're not,
Expect-
yeah,
They're not sacrosanct, no. You might have to
but that's
lay
the
off
point, because,
people.
I just want to understand what the parameters are that we're working with. Like, in my mind, just because it's a filled position, if,
But
we need to fill certain positions. We
I-
need to fill
yeah.
finance, like, that's
I'm
ridiculous.
just making that comment because if there were a lot of options of layoffs, that's one thing, but if people start to say last in, first out, you can't afford to do that
No.
with the finance people.
No, no. No. I mean, we went through this years ago. Remember, Mike, like, there were lots of cuts, lots of layoffs, lots of departments that were reducing headcount. And then once the kind of economy turned, we started bringing them back. But it hasn't really been that much of new ads
And
on the town side.
on the town side,
A
we've
lot
been-
couldn't be filled.
on the town side, we've been economizing by filling positions half-time,
Yeah,
sharing
sharing
positions with other towns, making sure if offices need to be open, the clerical position is the full-time position, and the professional position is part-time.
Mhm. Okay.
All right, so Jamie, that list.
We're gonna, the Board of the Board of Selectmen representative for budgets and myself are starting to bring the major departments in. So the board's recommendation to this committee should start to flow. I just don't have a definite schedule yet, but I should in a week, of who we're bringing in. But we're going to bring in the big 3 first. Police, fire, and DPW.
We are. Are they gonna be ready?
And to the Board of
Okay,
Selectmen.
okay.
And then once the board makes their recommendation, then I can get that to you, but
Where do we stand on, this might be a stupid question if it's already filled, but police chief and the exam and all that other stuff?
I was on the phone with a couple of people at civil service today. And we have 4 people who have their hands in the assessment center process from civil service. We've got one on creating the deputy chief position. We've got one on the job description or the essential functions of the deputy chief. We've got one on the assessment center, and then we have one overseeing all that. And I'm calling them on cell phones, so I think they're working remotely, which is interesting, but the process is moving along. We've got a title, we've got a job description for the deputy that has been accepted by the board, and now it's been sent to civil service. Once they approve that, and it goes through their supervisor, then we also have an RFP ready to go out for the assessment center. So, once they give us our delegation letters and the RFP goes out, we can put the dates in as far as, in the RFP, as far as where the, when the assessment center is going to be. The people who will sign up for the assessment center must have 10 weeks to study for it. But it's not locked down until the actual vendor meets with the board and they determine what the board wants for the assessment center to test, and civil service approves that. You're probably looking somewhere at the end of the summer.
So over a year then, right?
From now till the end of the summer.
Right.
Just,
Well, a year and a half since he
Right.
announced his retirement.
Correct.
yeah, well, you've got the 10 weeks
Mhm.
that you can, they have to, the opportunity to study. I'm assuming, I was told it's usually the Form 30 and the job description go back and forth 3 or 4 times with the director of that function. We finally agreed on a title a couple weeks ago and a job description. Because we want to run both positions through the same assessment center.
So it's too early to really schedule out, which,
Yeah, so we can't
Which
really,
departments
we can't
are
really
coming
set
in?
up our schedule.
Well, if there are ones you'd want to come in that, and we discuss it and they're simple ones, then I'd see if we could bring them into the board quickly.
I mean, I'm just looking at, so like, library, they're usually,
We know that's a formula.
right, and they usually don't have a big increase at all. Council on Aging, Board of Health. I mean, we could probably bring all them in, because they usually come in. Town clerk.
Town clerk had advised, until we get an answer from Old Colony, and I'm waiting for it right now, on who's gonna pay for the special election, whether it's Old Colony or us.
don't we pay for it anyway? I mean, it's in the budget, we pay for it anyway.
Well, I've, in talking to Mr. Polanski, it was my suggestion that they should pay for it, because it's about $8,000. And he said he'd look at it because he thought very likely that under the statute of the regs, they are supposed to pay for it.
Is that something that they would have to provide to every member town, a special? I mean, I don't know, I'm just,
And we don't know the form of the election, whether it's a one-day election, whether it's a one-day in-person election, whether it's a one-day in-person plus so many days early voting.
So I'm thinking ahead here, looking at this calendar to try and figure out when we would have our next meeting. So, I mean, I don't think it would make sense to meet next week.
Not if we don't have anything to discuss other than the same things we're discussing now.
No, and then the week after that is school vacation
Right.
week. So we already had just, said we weren't gonna meet on that week, correct?
Right.
Correct.
The other thing that the board or committee should know is Mr. McIntyre has said that the school committee will want one meeting with the three boards on the debt exclusion and one meeting with the three boards on the budget. And you might want to get the debt exclusion out of the way.
I think that would be the
Sooner
first,
than-
that would be the first one. So we're gonna have to coordinate that, because that's gonna be a separate meeting.
So you might want to work on that very quickly and schedule that, and then also schedule their budget. I think they finalize their budget mid-March. But I can have him contact you, and you can deal with him on that. You've been dealing with him on the debt exclusion substantive matter anyway.
And then we just gotta make sure that we can get the Board of Selectmen there at the same time. You know, make sure.
These
it
are gonna
works.
be full board meetings, right? Not representatives, just.
Full board is what they wanted. All three boards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's how it should be.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think, like, so if we're gonna start our, like, budget hearings, I'm looking at February 26th. That's probably when we're gonna start.
The next Board of Selectmen meeting is February 25th.
So by the 26th, would we have some departments ready to come in?
I can, they could come in and present to you, but they probably won't have, I won't have from the Board of Selectmen a determination of what the board's recommended budget is going to be at that point. But they can come in and make their budget
Yeah, I
presentation
mean, I think
to
we've
you.
done that in the past anyway. We
Yeah.
didn't necessarily have to
We've heard
wait.
the budget before I went to the.
Yeah, we don't
Yeah,
have to
you
wait.
don't have to wait,
Yeah, so I
but
don't wanna do
it's, I very much thought I would be able to avoid this, but I think it's going to be similar to last year where we were cutting almost to the day we published the warrant.
Yep.
So I'm thinking like on the 26th, we could have the library come in, Council on Aging, Board of Health. Those are three off the top of my head that I can think of right now.
Animal control.
Animal Control. That, I mean, we could probably take care of four of those pretty easily.
A number of the general government departments that are not listed as no change, the real change on them is just the
Contractual.
collective bargaining increase. The expenses are all been level funded, so it's whatever is in the collective bargaining. So, yeah, you could have animal control. You could probably have building inspector.
I don't think we usually have building inspector come in.
We haven't.
No.
All right, you could,
I think those 4 on that one night is probably good.
So nothing the 12th, and we're gonna,
I think you could probably have conservation that night and planning.
So that's like 6.
There's 6 quick ones, so realistically, none of them are gonna bring any drastic asks or changes to it.
It's almost all just contractual.
Yeah.
And as you know, conservation and planning, the professional is a part-time, and it's the clerical.
Well, here's a question. If we've got no increases on a budget other than
You want to have them come
contractual, why bother having them come in? Until after, until after the Board of Selectmen finalizes their budget for what their general mindset is.
I
I still think we should do our due
I think
diligence and-
the exercise of cutting budgets, other than the analysis of the most expensive on the town side, are going to, like we did last year. It was when the school came in and we got an agreement with them that they wouldn't increase more than 330. And we found money other places to balance the budget, and we then cut the hell out of the town side.
Okay. So my point is we did our due diligence last year and cut the hell out of the town side to begin with, in the ones that we're talking about right now. What more due diligence is there other than if we have to slash and burn? Don't get me wrong, I'm happy, I'll be here irregardless.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
you're
I'd still agree.
and slashing and burning expenses on a lot of these town side, it's not gonna get you a lot of money. It's the type of thing, you slash and burn, you might get 50 grand if you need 50 grand to balance the budget.
Right, but we did that last year.
Yeah,
So how
I'd
much
like
is
to
it?
give the department heads the opportunity to come before us, so we can actually, potentially hear their needs too. So some of the other bigger departments in town can hear what these folks are saying. So I just,
All right.
I want to hear what they have to say.
That's a good point, Mike.
So Kathy, did you get those 6?
Yep.
So that would be on February 26th.
so no meeting next week. The next
Yeah.
meeting will be the 26th.
Yeah, because we're gonna get 6 out of the way right off the bat, and then after that, it's gonna be police, fire, EMS, DPW, and then the school.
Yep, I don't know if you wanted to have a meeting next week and invite Mr. McIntyre in to find out what's going on. I haven't been at those meetings.
That might not be a bad idea.
That's a bad idea.
What do you folks think of that?
Yeah.
If I
It's on my
can,
calendar already, so yeah.
They might not have answers or anything, but at least you'll start to be in the loop.
Yeah.
I'll email him tomorrow, ask him if he could be available for next Wednesday,
Tell him
and then I'll get back to everybody.
I'm sorry I threw him under the bus.
The other thing I'd like to potentially do, if we had like an open date where we weren't doing hearings, is I'd like to actually have our 2 new reps come in before us, before the finance committee, so they can introduce themselves, give us their background, and let us have a question and answer session with them. So we can address our concerns and questions to our new reps who are elected, because I know I have quite a few questions.
Maybe you would, if you could invite them next, they could sit and listen to the debt exclusion presentation, and then you could talk to them.
I personally would be, I like that idea. I'd be willing to do a non-Wednesday off.
Yes.
So we don't cut
No,
into our budget
I
hearings.
absolutely want to do this. This is
Yeah.
like top priority for me.
So
Because they
it could
need to
make
know-
it suitable for whatever
Mhm.
day they can make it, a Monday or a Thursday. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm
So
speaking for
Jamie, who would
myself.
reach out to them? Would it be you,
I'll
to
have.
try and coordinate something?
I'll reach out to the senator and the two reps and see if they can mesh their schedules and get back to me, but do you want it sooner than later?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, before they start voting on stuff.
Ask them if they
You
can
know,
bring
I
the
mean-
governor with them.
Yeah, you don't
Well,
want that.
Well, speaking of that, when I see, them talking about putting a $425 million bill before the House for establishing a migrant shelter,
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
That's gonna get,
to me, that's irresponsible.
get
When you
this-
have towns that are in need of local aid.
that's gonna get
So
destroyed.
that would be one of my questions.
Mhm.
What is your
Well,
opinion of that?
This
And
is
then-
on top
and
of
then
the
who's-
500,000 that they did just a few months ago that was supposed to carry them, they said, through May for 6 months.
So that's number one, and I want to know who's going to get the utility companies under control in the
Oh,
state,
God.
because it's freaking out of control.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
EverSource is crazy. What they're
Twice for
charging people.
delivery,
It's a
oversupply.
transmission charges
Well,
that are
them and
crazy.
the Massachusetts Department of Utilities,
Yeah.
who sets the rate, and then the governor signs off on it. This is just insane. What? Not
But-
everybody has solar panels on their
but
house.
you also have and Kristen can back me up, you've got required net school spending. And even if the governor and the legislature increase the per student minimum, you're not going to get to the increase in required net school spending. Your minimum, aren't you, your district, or close?
Yes, yes.
Isn't that gonna be like $70 this year?
Right now it's 75 per student, I think,
Yeah, but
75.
I
Or-
think between the,
What are we budgeting for?
no, but between the two Acushnet schools and Old Colony, your change in the required net school spending is around $500,000.
And I mean, realistically, schools can't operate on minimum net school spending. So most communities, other than your big urban districts, cannot operate on a net school spending budget. I know that that's been talked about in this community. Maybe not in the recent past, but it has. But, as someone who works in the schools, it would really, really devastate this school
I
department.
remember
in
Dr.
Acushnet.
Donovan giving his
Right. It would
slide
really
presentation,
devastate it
formulas
because-
off.
Correct.
But
That's
if you
correct.
have a $500,000 increase in required net school spending, and you've got a Chapter 70 increase of, 1%?
Yeah, they put all the pressure on the
So-
towns.
That's the
They're
problem.
putting the pressure on the towns, so you should let the state, especially since they're new, you should let the state reps know. But I will tell you that you'll be preaching to the choir for one of the state reps because you have one state rep that has been a town manager and knows what we're facing.
Well, the problem is that the Chapter 70 aid does not keep pace with these contractual increases and the fixed costs.
It doesn't even keep pace with the demands of this,
No.
what the state wants us to spend per pupil.
And that's been talked about as a problem for years.
But
and
they
years
looked at the
and
formula,
years.
right,
They
Kristen? And it didn't
They
get us
did.
anything.
No, it didn't. It didn't.
Didn't get us anything.
Well, I think when they looked at the formula shortly thereafter, we had the immigrant issue developed in the state, and then they took.
I want to know where the millionaire's tax revenue went.
Right, it went to roads last year.
Yeah.
Nothing that I know of has come into.
That's what it was supposed to, that's what it's
Did-
supposed
did
to.
some of it go to-
Transportation and education, but I don't think anything's come into, like,
Did some go to
maybe, EEC, there was
English second language and teaching? And
not that I know of, but then I also heard maybe higher ed was getting some money too, but just not the elementary and secondary schools.
Every meeting.
Pick up my daughter from dance.
I'd like to know if this, I'd like to see what the stats are. Are there more millionaires now or less in the state? That's what I'd like to know.
There's less.
Who's contributing
And
to
they're
this?
leaving.
There's less millionaires.
Because they're
Well,
leaving.
because they're smart and
Isn't
they're
it,
leaving.
wasn't some of that supposed to go towards the community college,
I think so.
that
but-
program? Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
I'm not sure about that though.
All right.
If some of the fog would clear and the state would, in this long legislative year, do the budget sooner than later, then we might be able to know how much the increase, and if the increase that the House and Senate gives us brings us back to 700,000, then at least we have a shot at pulling some rabbits out of the hat by not filling positions, by convincing the school to be reasonable, and hopefully convincing Mr. Polanski to be reasonable.
That's a nice world you're living in.
I said if.
How many open positions are there currently?
Unfilled?
Unfilled, open?
Unfilled and funded, in the process of counting them.
Yeah, that'll be a good number to know.
Mm-hmm.
And, in all honesty, and where? I mean, we know finance.
We have to fill finance.
No doubt about it.
And how many were, it seems for every one we fill, we bleed one out and lose somebody.
That's always the problem.
And of course, we have the problem of no recruitment of young people in some of the physical positions. Or with licenses and permits that we need.
Yeah, I want to take up, next on the agenda, this reserve fund transfer for the Council on Aging. It's in the amount of $9,950. Explanation, the Council on Aging is in need of replacing an 80-plus gas LP furnace installation with a 4-ton condenser and coil. This is due to the fact that the system is being outdated. They've had multiple ongoing issues that have been attempted to be addressed, and the issues continue. So replacing the furnace will help mitigate any further problems for them.
This year.
I was gonna say, I just have a question, why mitigate? Wouldn't this take care of the problems that they're having with the HVAC system?
No, you're going to, down the road, you're going to need to replace more. It's just we can't afford to do any more than this right now.
So is this one of multiple units? Okay. Understood.
So 2 years ago, my my wife actually had presented to the administration at the time. There was an estimate of about $36,000 to replace all the existing system. I have concerns about spending just part of this, just to fix part of the system, just to have it fall apart, the rest of it fall apart. Especially in light with our financial situation coming down the pipe, where we're going to be spending big dollars. That's kind of concerned what's going to happen to the rest of the system. 2 years, I mean, not sure why it hasn't been addressed in a 2-year period, but it was looked at a couple of years ago, and it wasn't estimated.
Yeah, and there've been a number of other repairs to that building, as we know.
Mhm.
And we can get this done now without going out through procurement. If we go through procurement, we're gonna end up in that, having to go out, get prices. It'll take us a while. We can get this done now. And, as I said, I don't have free cash certified, and I don't know what's going on with others, but we have myriad of expenses like this coming down the pike.
So because of this problem right now, are they having issues heating the building?
Part of the building.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think this is, you gotta
I wouldn't,
address this.
in best of all worlds, I'd rather address the whole problem. But I've also got other buildings that have the same issues. And we're already taking half of the reserve fund, and I don't want to, at this time of the year, go in and start to move other stuff, especially since we also haven't addressed the elephant in the room,
It's my understanding.
which is how much the public safety departments are going to come in for replenishment of their overtime budgets.
So, can I throw something out there? It's my understanding that there's some mini split. There's a surplus of mini split units in town. I know there's one at EMA that's just sitting there and has been sitting there for some time.
I don't know.
Um,
I'm not a facilities.
I'd like to see
Manager.
that looked at.
Was this a singular quote? Because you mentioned procurement, the number's right under 10,000, so.
Yeah.
Mr. Kelly, just a off-the-wall question. If we do have to go the way of a debt exclusion, is there an opportunity and would it make sense to look at some of these outstanding projects that we have to get done eventually, or it's just gonna keep snowballing itself and getting bad and
You would
rolling
have
it into
to-
one debt exclusion?
You would, the schools are coming in on one. We would have to put together a second debt exclusion. You have to be specific on what you're excluding and what you're asked the voters to fund. So you could put together a laundry list, you could put together a number of things. Putting all that on the backs of the taxpayers, I think is, in this environment, in this economy, is not advisable.
I was just asking if it made sense or not, because sometimes you gotta borrow to pay $100 now to avoid paying $300 in 2 years.
My specter that's causing me to lose sleep at night is that if Washington turns off the state spigot, then you're going to see 9C cuts coming from the state after we set our budget, and they say they're withholding 20%, 25% of state aid. And then what are you going to do?
Get rid of all the elected officials that have caused the state to not get the funding from the federal government.
But until I wouldn't be advising anybody, any town, to spend a lot of money right now until the mist clears and you know what the economic situation is.
Well,
It's not as bad as
been a
when
mess for the
2.5
last 4 years,
passed, but it's getting close. And at that point, I remember laying off almost 50% of a workforce when 2.5 passed for the first time.
Well, last thing we want to resort to in this town is any tax overrides, especially to fund our operational budget. That should not be happening. I don't care if other towns are starting to do that. It doesn't mean we're going to do it.
I wasn't advising it.
If things don't change, we may not have much choice.
You always
No, we
have
have
a
a
choice. You decrease services. Or you,
We have a big population in this town on fixed incomes.
Oh, I know.
There's no way they can absorb additional
$500,
property tax
$600
increases on top
increase.
of the utility increases right now and everything else. I mean,
I
it's just,
hear you. It's just definitely a perfect storm, but looking at things that are coming down the road that we're gonna have to face financially, I'd be interested to figure out how we're gonna work through those.
you have to figure out first what's happening with the two schools and those debt exclusions.
Exactly.
We gotta know what we're working with, is
Yeah.
the problem, and we don't know right now.
well, we know potentially our own school, it's potentially $4 million.
That's just for the environment. We still got the roof issue. We still got, I mean,
No, the
No.
roof's done, but still with this HVAC system, they haven't, no one's gone on record as saying, how does that affect the warranty of the roof?
Mhm.
Right, we're still waiting for an answer on that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were still having leaks.
And we still don't
No,
have.
the leaks are in the
service
walls.
is gonna be on it either.
Anyway, you have
Going-
something on the
Going back to the transfer here.
I would appreciate it to get that done, since it is our warming center.
Any more discussion on this?
No.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone
Abstain.
opposed? One abstention. Okay, motion passes. All right, next on the agenda, old business. Anyone have any old business to discuss? Under new business, the only thing I want to bring up is, having our two new state reps come in before us at some point sooner
I
than
think
later.
it would, just for courtesy, if we're inviting the two reps, we should invite the senator or a representative of his office too. You don't want to invite two and not one.
I mean, obviously, the Board of Selectmen as well. I mean,
But it's, realistically, it's.
Usually the senator sends an aide that sits and reports back.
Right.
I mean,
But-
did you want this like a town meeting event where people can come and ask questions themselves, or is it strictly our committee asking questions of the representatives?
Well, I know one of the new state reps has set up office hours at the COA.
Yeah.
I would like it just for our committee.
Yeah.
Is it any particular day other than Wednesday work for anybody? Because I'm pretty much
I
open.
think any day
Pretty much
except
open.
probably Friday. We're not gonna do it on a Friday. So, Monday through Thursday.
In the evening,
Yeah,
since people
like 7
work.
o'clock, just like we do now.
I might
Before-
have an issue with some Thursdays, but
Yeah, I have.
Before tax season.
Second Thursday of the month.
I'm in Boston on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
All right,
So
let's-
Monday,
I'm
Wednesday.
good any other time except that
let's try
second
and keep
Thursday
it
of the
on
month.
like on a Monday or a Wednesday then.
All right.
Um,
If I can only get one of the two new,
Well, just do whatever day, and then I can try to
and
switch
and
it.
if I can only get
I
one,
might be
come
able to do
in
some
on one
Thursdays,
day
just
and one
whenever
on
it's-
another is.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it happens to be separate days, I think that's good.
All right. I'll contact
Yeah,
them and
just-
see
just-
what they say.
Just find a day that works. I might be able to maneuver my schedule.
I mean, everybody good with that? I mean,
Yes.
everybody
Yeah,
like
that's
this
fine.
idea of doing that?
Yes.
Yeah, more information to follow, obviously.
Yep.
Are we meeting next week?
Yes.
Is that
Yes.
what we said with the
Well,
school?
I'm gonna have to,
Possibly.
I'm gonna email Patrick tomorrow
So you'll
to
let
see if
us
he
know.
can come in to give us an update as to where,
Yeah.
where they are right now
Okay.
with that project. So, so if we don't meet next week, then it'll be the
26th.
26th. And we're gonna have those 6 departments come in, and then we'll just go over their budgets, and that'll probably be a relatively quick night. I think that's about it.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Thank you.
we're adjourned.
Good night.